The Doubt and I were now preparing to infiltrate the barracks that my son is currently held in. I just hope that he is still a person and not a brainwashed puppet of the regime. After I stowed away the supplies I found on the decapitated soldier, I was curious about the diet of the Doubt I had tagging along with me. As I was changing out of my blood-drenched shirt, I asked, "Why do you need to feed off of someone's brain rather than their body?"
Our digestive system, if you want to call them that, are geared to run off of psionic energy rather than carbohydrate-based system that you humans and other mammals use. And naturally, the more intelligence someone has, the more often we can feed off them without any degradation to their mental stability.
But if you feed too much, you'd completely destroy their ability to function.
Oh, I'm not so sure about that. We have several small dens under the Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and your politicians seem to be doing alright, especially that Trump fella you guys had several years ago.
I could tell the hint of sarcasm in his voice, but that remark did raise some interesting questions. Where did the Doubt species come from? Why did they not surface until now? And how many of them in fact were there? Despite my inquisitiveness, I postponed asking about it for now. I figured if they were not bothering us up until this point, that I would not go out of my way to pursue contact with them for fear of provocation. At least not until this regime has been dealt with. If I were to stumble upon a nest of Doubt while this regime is in place, it might start an interspecies war. I figured it was best to leave well enough alone for now. But if there were a decent number of them that wanted to aid the fight against the regime, that would greatly increase our chances of success. Hypotheticals aside, I needed to focus on the goal at hand, saving my son. I double-checked my ammo and sword, making sure everything was in working order. It was a shame that I had no uniform available to disguise myself in that didn't have pools of blood on it. That would have made the stealth portion of this operation a lot simpler. Then I recalled the psionic masking technique that the Doubt used to fool the highway patrolman earlier. "Can you have me appear like a regime official to the guards in the base? You know, like you did when we got pulled over? It doesn't have to be a general or anything that high up, just high enough to give me unquestioned clearance to select areas within the base."
I see what you're going for, but there's a slight problem with your plan. You have to have a mind to be influenced by that technique. If they have any video cameras, the monitors in their surveillance room will show you as you are despite my suggestions. That, and it is only effective over a certain radius from where you are, so anyone far enough away from you would find you regardless.
Knowing this drastically limited our options. My original plan was to just wade through the regime troops using the Doubt's psionic mask, find my son, and escort him out. No fighting, no confrontation, and no one the wiser. However, due to this newfound statistic on his ability, I would have to explore alternatives. Suddenly, I got hit with a random idea. If the human body functions by sending electrical impulses from the brain to nerves, maybe I can utilize the Doubt's siphon ability to drain the power out of the base, or at least interfere with the security cameras. I went back to the soldier I reluctantly stabbed, and found a radio among his gear. I took it and turned to the Doubt. "Can you siphon energy off of this?"
Why the hell would I want to do that? All the intelligence in there is programmed in, and I wouldn't benefit from it in any way.
I'm not asking you to digest the energy like you would with the soldier's brain waves. I was wondering if you could take electrical energy away from devices and either store it or direct it elsewhere, thus rendering them useless.
What do I look like, a damn Pikachu?
Just humor me on this. If you're able to drain electronic devices, then we can render any surveillance systems useless.
Aha! So that's the game we're playing now. Very well, I will try. Set it on the ground and step back.
The doubt began to glare at the device, similar to how he did with the soldier. I assumed I would see a spark or some indication the charge was being transferred, but there were no noticeable indications from the device. All of a sudden, the doubt began to hiss and growl. Up until now, he had been rather calm and collected. I assumed this was part of the energy drain ability that he was using. Moments later, my assumption was verified when his fur began to spike up and emit faint static crackles. This must have been due to the battery siphoning and him not readily knowing how to direct the flow of energy. That's enough. Are you okay? I was content knowing he was able to drain electronic devices to some degree, but I did not want him to overexert himself on the first attempt either. A sigh of relief came from the doubt, but he was still trembling all over due to the excessive energy he now possessed.
Great, but what do I do with it now?
This is a great question that I did not previously consider. I could have him try to shoot the energy at a target as a projectile, but the flash or potential explosion might alert soldiers to our whereabouts. With no better options, I turned back to the radio. Can you just transfer the energy back?
I can try. It should be just the same process in reverse.
The doubt assumed the same position he had before, as close as he could due to the excessive shivering he was doing. The static crackles died down, and his fur began to return to normal. There was a low growl from him, and then the trembling stopped altogether. It seemed that the doubt had returned the energy back to the radio. I tried turning it on to see if it still worked, but when I did, the device started to emit smoke. Removing the back panel of the radio confirmed that the batteries were fried.
Looks like I gave him just a little too much juice back.
On the contrary, we can use this to our advantage. Rather than powering off the devices, we can power them up and overload the circuitry. We just need to pull a small amount of excess energy so that we can do that at will.
And where do you propose we get that energy?
The barracks will probably have more electronic devices than we can shake a stick at. We'll figure that out once we get in. The Suburban Samurai, a radio drama written and narrated by Don Rosenberger, also starring Jake Hilty as The Doubt. The music used in this episode of Suburban Samurai was composed by Dope and Nobou Uematsu.